don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone.
There was a lot of blame to go around. More relevant new media. At least that's the impression I get when I read the blogs every day. It's nothing personal.
Good morning, folks. I'm James MacArthur, your friendly neighborhood Baltimore Spectator, bringing you another episode of The Spectator Speaks. Oh, boy. Okay. Very simple. This is a new format that I've been using. Not sure how many episodes we're in on this right now, but some of you have listened to everyone, and many of you haven't. It's my least popular format at the moment, but it's something I'm going to continue to do. First of all, this is completely unscripted, believe it or not. It's very similar to the rants that I do on Twitter. This is stream of consciousness, just off the top of my head, stuff that's pissing me off, stuff that's getting my goat, just my observations. I mean, this is what I am known for. This is how I've made a name for myself. It's my power of observation, which is finely tuned, highly honed, just well developed at this point. I mean, it's a large part of the success I've had in various fields of endeavor. My ability to observe keenly, my sense of pattern recognition. And I wanted to talk about the Baltimore City pathetic school system today, the BCPS. I mean, I guess it's not appropriate for now. By the way, I might be over-modulating into this mic. This is a brand new microphone I've never used to do one of these recordings, so bear with me. This is an absolute live recording. There may be glitches and technical snafus as we go along, and I appreciate your patience and definitely your feedback. Whenever I do these recordings, although they're podcasts with primarily meant for recording some of my thoughts for the record, for my kids, grandkids, so on and so forth, so that long after I'm gone, I can tell my own story in my own voice. I do them live. I bring you into the studio with me just to make it a more interesting experience, although I can do this perfectly fine at just recording it and releasing it later. But right now at 11:35 Tuesday morning, I am talking to you from my studio and about to go into this rant. Most of you listening right now are probably joining me from the Twitter, where the link went out, and I think it went out on my Facebook also. But of course, many of you will listen to this in the ensuing archive. So I thank you for coming in here, and I thank you for coming along for the ride as I continue on this wonderful new media experiment. And it really has been an experience. The amount of people that you can connect to with new media, it's just amazing. Between the retweets and people reading your blog later on. I mean, sometimes I get emails for some things I've written 3 years ago. This was just unheard of in the old media days. Old media, what do I know about it? Well, I first published writings probably about 20 years ago. And this was paper, hard copy paper. Stuff gets distributed. Some of it had limited worldwide distribution. You can't find it. It's under a different name, out of print. Stuff never got archived to the web. That's funny. A lot of people think if you can't find it on Google, if it's not on the web, it must not exist. Oh, my gosh. I tell you, ye pitiful souls. There's a lot of material that just never makes it to the web, never gets archived. As much stuff as there is on the web, there is a whole lot more that isn't. I know. I've authored some of it. But I'm going to get into the blog in a minute. But again, like I said, this is stream of consciousness. So if you want me to get right to it, you may have to wait till later. And if I get really good at it, I'll isolate it and retweet that as its own podcast where I just get to the heart of the matter. But this is me walking out on stage, so to speak, and just giving it to you raw and in the flesh. Like I said, unrefined, sometimes in nature. The best things are those that are unadulterated, those that are straight, like raw honey. I mean, man, that tastes good. Anyhow, this education system we have in Baltimore, my disclaimer, first of all, is that I realize that there are some very good schools in the system. I do realize that. Furthermore, I fully acknowledge there are some very dedicated, hardworking teachers out there. I've met many of them, and many of them follow me on Twitter. Actually, I keep finding out there's more and more educators on my Twitter. A lot of them stay quiet. They don't say much. They observe, but sometimes they chime in. And last night when I went on my riff on education in Baltimore versus the state of Maryland, a lot of people popped up, people who had been following me for who knows how long, who have never interacted with me, and several of them identified themselves as teachers, and then I got direct messages and these sort of things. So there's a lot of teachers out there, and I thank you for honoring me by following me and interacting with me on occasion. Some of you, well, I won't call out your names, but, Senator Bill Ferguson, of course, is a former teacher, and I really thank the senator for jumping in. To me, this is what social media is about if you're a politician. It's not just to announce your latest to-do event or, what you've accomplished or your agenda, your initiative. I mean, that's cool. Definitely use it for that. But engage with the people. No, you can't engage with all of them all of the time. But reach out. Reach out to the folks and remind us that, you really are there to serve us. You're a public servant. You're the one who chose this job. So if you chose it, do it right. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to do your job, but I'm going to tell you that as a citizen, we have certain expectations. And, there are several notable ones. Delegate Jill Carter is top of the list for engaging with folks. This is a very busy person, but takes the time to respond to answers and questions. Kiefer Mitchell jumps in oftentimes, and there are many more. I won't go into all of them now, but then there are the notable ones, like Mayor Stephanie Rollins-Blake, who is an announce-only, broadcast-only Twitter. And that goes against the philosophy, the concept of social media. The governor engages occasionally. A couple of years ago, him and I really got into it one time. I'll have to pull that out in the archives somewhere, but we had a few brief exchanges. The governor even gave me a follow Friday because he said that kudos to me for engaging the political process with elected officials. And everyone knows we don't particularly care for each other. Well, enough of this intro, because you're listening to this because you wanted to hear me and my take on the Baltimore City pathetic school system. But again, I'll tell you the reason I do these. I'm a writing perfectionist. It takes me a long time to write. I'm not a particularly gifted writer who can just sit down, bang something out, and it's ready for publication. I mean, I go through reads and rereads and more proofreading and editing and tweaking, and it takes me a long time to produce a single article, because I know once it's out there, and I'm going to be judged by it, and it will live on, So it's a fault of mine, but I freely admit it. Whereas talking to a small group like this, I feel more free. It's liberating. I can just be myself. I've just invited you into my living room. We're sitting around on the couch, on the seats. We're enjoying some beverages, and we're just having a conversation. And it's very interesting. On this Spreaker.com, Spreaker Web Radio, it's one of my smallest audiences in my social media universe, and I like that. That's why I've been coming here more and more than I ever thought I would, with these impromptu talks, these impromptu discussions. Most of my shows here, most of my episodes as they're called, will have less than 100 listeners. And that's after several days, as opposed to my blog talk radio, where I do my weekly Thursday show, where I will have, over the course of a week through the archive listens, I will have, a few thousand listeners, which is impressive. I'm pleased that many people actually take the time to listen to me talk. But at the same time, I realize I have to, I put more prep into that, and it's a little bit more intimidating. And, of course, on Twitter, there's a little bit over 2,000 of you. And, of course, at the BaltimoreSpectator.com, there's thousands and thousands per week that hit that place up. I haven't done an update in a little while, and I promise you one is coming soon. So that's why I can do these talks freely. I don't have to, and you see how long I've been rambling here, and I haven't even gotten to it. But really, I can do these and share some of what you like and bring you some of my thoughts freely, and I deliver it quicker than it takes me to write an article. A few Twitter reactions here. When I do these recordings, I always monitor the Twitter. For those of you listening on Spreaker who don't follow me on Twitter, that's twitter.com/Balto, BALTO, Spectator. Catalina says I should have called her into the show, and in my early days on internet web radio, Catalina has often been, she's often accompanied me. She's a great sidekick. Unfortunately, Catalina, on Spreaker web radio, at this point, there is no way to bring in callers or guests. So it's just one of those things. It's old school talk radio. I mean, old school. In the early days of radio, you couldn't even take callers on the air. A caller could call and maybe talk to a receptionist. Somebody passed a note on, but it was just the announcer talking to you. So if you want to tell me something while I'm on air, feel free to hit my Twitter. I'm looking at it. I will see it. And thank you, Mr. Richard Lewis, for retweeting that I'm broadcasting live on air. So let's get into it. Last night during the debate, which I was not watching, I was on duty with one of my other jobs, I guess Mitt Romney again claimed that Massachusetts is number one in education. And, of course, Governor O'Malley had to check him on that immediately. No, Massachusetts is not number one. Maryland is number one. And Sean Adamack, who lives in Massachusetts, quickly co-signed on the governor and also checked Romney. Yeah, Massachusetts is number two. Now, bear in mind, Sean Adamack, he's gonna kill me. I always butcher his name. Sean Adamack used to be Governor O'Malley's press secretary. Keep that in mind. And I like the guy. But anyways, really? Maryland is number one in education? Do you know every time the governor says this, anytime anyone says it, anytime I hear it, I see it, it makes my skin crawl. Why is that? I live in Baltimore City. Baltimore City, if it were a state, would probably be near dead last in education. We're only as strong as our weakest link. So how on earth could the governor claim that we're number one when your biggest city in the state is doing so poorly? Population-wise, we're probably now about third. I know Montgomery County and Prince George's County has surpassed us, but we're still the cultural capital of Maryland. We are the largest city. You go across the country, you say Montgomery County or Prince George's County, Maryland, no one knows what you're talking about. You go anywhere in the world, and they've heard of Baltimore. They know Baltimore. People outside of this area think Maryland, they think Baltimore. So how could you go around giving this misleading statement that we're number one in education when your biggest city, your crown jewel, is dead last? It makes no sense. You can't go around celebrating, talking about, hey, I'm a great dad, I'm a great parent, when one of your sons is strung out, homeless on the street, performing homosexual sex acts so he can get his next high. I mean, maybe it's not your fault, but hey, listen. Okay, your other kids turned out fine. He didn't. Be humble. Be quiet. Figure out what's wrong before you go asking for the Dad of the Year award. I mean, really. It's not fooling anyone. And proof of that is when I checked O'Malley on this statement last night, I got more Twitter interactions than I've seen in a long time. And I have to admit, I'm a crime guy. I'm a crime guy. I'm not an education guy. I have taught before. I have instructed before. Plenty of teachers in my family, including my little sister. She doesn't like it when I call her that. My brother-in-law just retired from decades of teaching. My sister has been teaching for 20-something years. I forget how many. Other family members that are currently principals and administrators, none in Baltimore, by the way. I mean, sis went to Coppin for her master's, but that's about the only direct education connection my family has with Baltimore. And there's a reason for this. More people last night said this is why they don't live in the city. This is why they moved out. And I've talked to so many people in the real world who echo that refrain. This is why they don't live here. It's fairly expensive to live here, believe it or not. And then with the schools being as crappy as they are, many people who even remotely have the means feel compelled to send their kid to some private school, which so many can barely afford. Now who wants that if you can live somewhere else that has lower taxes, lower crime, and has a good, excellent public school, which you're paying for anyways because you're paying for it in taxes? To ignore this is ludicrous. For the mayor to talk about wanting to attract 10,000 new families and not put a wholesale, radical, top-to-bottom reform at the top, at the very top of her list of things that need to be fixed in Baltimore is just ludicrous. For the governor to continue to crow about how good we're doing and completely ignore Baltimore, it's unthinkable. It's unthinkable. And sure, there's been minuscule improvements here and there, but come on, more than half the kids walking in to high school each year in Baltimore still are not going to graduate in 4 years, if at all. Most of them will not. Most of them will drop out. This is an indisputable fact. This is pathetic. This is shameful. Something needs to be done about it. A whole lot more. We don't have time for minuscule baby step changes. No, we need radical change, and we need it now. We don't need so many administrators making so much money. How's that working out for you? How much good has that done to us? We don't need a CEO of schools with a driver making $150K a year, $150,000 to drive this guy around. And we're an impoverished city under fiscal and budgetary restraints or constraints? Are you kidding me? Help me out. Somebody, just help me out with this because I don't get it. And I'm a fairly intelligent man, but this one has me completely baffled, befuddled, shook. And then you had $500,000 being spent to renovate offices at North Avenue, administrative offices, when literally schools are crumbling. Yes, they are. Literally, you can't drink the water in half of these schools because there's still lead in the pipes. There's the red signs over the fountains, taped over, plastic bagged over. They have to bring in bottled water. Like we're in some third world country, like we're in post-earthquake Haiti. The kids can't even drink out of the fountains in the public schools, but Maryland's number one in education. The Maryland education is headquartered in Baltimore, for the whole state, right here in Baltimore. But Baltimore education sucks. Does this make any sense to anyone? It certainly doesn't to me. And I would be remiss to not go into another area I see that just it does nothing. It does nothing to contribute into the success of our schools and the education of our students. It is the Baltimore City Public Schools Police. Really? The schools have their own police force? What is the message being sent there? Not to have security, but their own police force. Full-fledged police department, police cars, guns, badges. Don't we already have one of the largest police departments in Baltimore City in the whole country? Yes, we do. Couldn't we merge those guys as a special unit, special division, specially trained officers within a police department that's already there? Haven't we learned that the simpler we keep things, the more unified we do things, in theory, it's more efficient, it's more effective? Why do we have a whole separate bureaucracy with its own command structure? So why do we have this whole separate police department that it's shrouded in secrecy, by the way? They don't release their stats. You don't know about what type of the Baltimore Police Department, the main police department, tweets out incidents and things that happens. Okay, yet the school department won't say nothing. And don't tell me it's because it's juveniles. You can report an incident without giving the names and IDs of who's involved, but they say absolutely nothing. I don't think they do anything. And when they do, it's a big secret. When a kid was stabbed at Clifton Park a few weeks ago, it took so long to extract the teeniest bit of information. You know what? The hell with them. Disband them. Merge them into the department. Do something. But they're a waste of our taxpayer money. They're a waste of time. I never really see them patrolling the schools. Schools like Poly, Western, on East Cold Spring, where the traffic is horrendous. People drive at high speeds. The kids are spilling out in the streets. These guys are never out there directing traffic. What are they doing? What good are they? No other school system in the whole state has its own police department, but we're so special we need our own. Well, see how well that's working out. Is that contributing to the learning environment? Absolutely, not one iota. And you know what? If you disagree with me, you're free to send me a comment. My email is macarthurmedia@gmail.com, and my Twitter, I already said it. You know, disagree with me, inform me, educate me, bring me up to speed. I'm all about learning here. This is a two-way street. It is social media. I live for your interactions. I mean, sometimes I am wrong on stuff, but to me, the school police are an entirely unnecessary, redundant force. Not the concept of school security, but the whole thing of school police. And I realized I had my monitors on here, so when I was playing music and sound effects, that may have sounded horrible. It may have created a lot of background, so I turned it off because I have the headphones on. But it was also playing in the monitor here, and that may have been picked up on the mic. So you guys will forgive me. Anyways, I think that's all I really have to say about the school system is that the change is coming way too slow. We need much more radical action than we've seen. If a kid started in first grade today, by the time he's a senior, ready to graduate, at the current pace of improvement, he will have barely seen things get better, and that's not good enough. That's too long. I mean, if a kid only has 12 years in the school system, and you're improving it at a rate so slow that you can only compare improvement decade by decade, well, that's not good because you're failing a whole generation of pupils, a whole generation of students. Then what becomes of them? Well, that's when I deal with them as a crime reporter, as a guy who covers crime. These are your dropouts, your criminal thugs on the street with no education, can't be hired anywhere, and they're the ones who's going to put a bullet in your chest trying to rob you because they want to survive, because they're ignorant, because they don't know any better, because no one taught them better, because they're the lost generation here in Baltimore. I'd like to see some of them saved. I know you can't save them all, but I want to do something. So my appeal is very simple. We need action. We need people who listen to messages like this on social media. Listen, I don't have any school-age kids in Baltimore. So, for me, it's a civic thing. It's out of the goodness of my heart, but I cannot be as passionate about this as I am on some other issues. But many of you have children here. Many of you are connected to the school system. We need more activism. We need you showing up at these meetings, these committees. We need you pressuring your elected officials on a regular basis. Send them the letters. Yes, they are moved by them. They respond to them. Call them. We need to network on this and demand a better change and tell them what we want. Tell them this is unacceptable that there's still lead in the water in the schools. This is unacceptable that you have so many administrators making so much money when this is not doing anything towards the betterment of our students. We need to pare this thing down so that it's lean and mean and effective and efficient. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see more of you engaging with your mayor, with this governor, with the state school department. Say, hey, we got a huge problem here. We're bleeding to death. And, you're pouring on a little peroxide. You're putting on a little Band-Aid, but we're hemorrhaging to death. That's not solving the problem. There are these huge cancers eating away at the insides, but you find a few scratches that were on my arm. I brushed up against a wall, and you put a Band-Aid, and you say, hey, it's getting better. We've made improvements. No, I'm sorry. I don't think so. Well, that's about it for this rant, which is turning into a full episode of the show. I apologize. You guys know I like to talk. I can go on and on. Let me know what you think about this show. Let me know what you think about what I had to share on there. There's a lot I probably could have covered that I didn't. This is totally off-the-cuff stream of consciousness. But I want to hear from you, and I want to take up this issue more. If there's things that I should be talking about, things that a lot of people follow my Twitter. I don't mean follow by clicking follow, but they monitor. They look at it. Trust me. I get the feedback from City Hall. I get the feedback from your councilman. I say things they hear. Whether they listen, that's another story. But if there's things that I should be talking about more on my Thursday night show, on my tweets, and my blogs that I didn't today, email me, let me know. My email, again, is MacArthurMedia. MacArthur is MacArthur, MacArthurMedia@gmail.com. My phone number is 410-205-6397. That's 410-205-NEWS, N-E-W-S. Twitter, my website, where it all comes together, is the BaltimoreSpectator.com. That's BaltimoreSpectator.com, where you find my articles, things I write, things I find of interest. My shows are typically up there, my YouTube videos, and all that stuff. And, of course, every Thursday, 7 p.m., I am on Blog Talk Radio. Links for that are also on BaltimoreSpectator.com. And what else do I have to say? Oh, yeah, definitely. We're coming up on the noon, midday hour. I encourage you to listen to State of the City on 1590 a.m. He's also on Twitter at the number one. That's the number one, State of the City. Follow his Twitter. There's a link to his show. You can listen to it online there. Excellent show. Sometimes people have problems with his delivery, but listen to the meat of the matter. Listen to the details, the facts of what's being delivered, and I guarantee you, it's a show like nothing you've heard in Baltimore. And I think this brother Darren Muhammad has a lot of important things to say that we could all learn from. Well, until next time, this is James MacArthur asking you, what's up, Baltimore?
Trying to find an ocean, looking everywhere. Hard times in the city. My sister saying it, my little brother Ray, by a big old wagon to haul us all away. Live out in the country where the mountains high. Never coming back here till the day I die. Oh, Baltimore, man, it's hard just to live. Oh, Baltimore, man, it's hard just to live, just to live.
This show is copyright MacArthur Media 2012.